Hello everyone, it's Amy, and welcome back for week 122 of Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we're going to talk about masks, and a mask is basically exactly the opposite of a stencil. But there are many things that you can do with a mask that will really help you in doing some of your projects. So let's say, just to start with, the very first and easiest one is, let's say you have this picture. You don't like the whole picture. You really just want this soldier here, and you want everything else just kind of pushed back. So what you can do is, with our little sticky shipping labels that we got, you can make your own mask. So you can say, okay, I want this guy and I want him to be an oval. So you can just draw an oval. Like I traced around the bottom of this hand sanitizer and made an oval. And I did a lot of this a little bit ahead of time because it's just quicker that way. But I just traced around that, and then I cut it out, and then I had my mask. Now, the other thing is that the part that you cut it out from, this would be a stencil. In this case, you would have something that you would get this circle. The shape you're looking at is the shape you're going to get on your project if you paint through this or stamp through it or something like that. But you can also use this with your mask when I say, okay, I want this soldier, and I just want this soldier right about there. So I know exactly where. I don't want to cut his feet off or cut his head off. So I'm going to say, this is what I want to see, and I want everything else pushed back. So then what you're going to do is you are going to remove your mask from the backing paper, and then you're going to stick it on your shirt, stick it on your arm. What you're going to do is you're going to want to pick up some lint or something and make it so that it is not really sticky. If I were to take some of this sticky paper, just take a little piece of this one. If I were just to take the sticky paper just like it is, and then stick it on my picture, put it up here, and then paint it around it, and then went to peel it off, what it's going to do is you're going to have a hard time getting it off, and it is probably going to rip your paper, or you aren't going to get it off at all. So that's why you put it on your shirt or your arm or a piece of fabric. You want something to take away the sticky. See, this is ripping. It's ripping my paper. It's just making a mess. So whatever I had underneath that, my little soldier, I'm going to rip him up, and I don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you make your sticky mask not quite so sticky. And then you can use this to decide exactly where you want it. Let's say we want it right there, and then you're going to stick your mask on there just like that, and remove this piece and stick your mask down. Now these will work for a few times, and then they'll start to lose their stickiness, especially since they get paint on them. But you can use them over and over until they just won't stick anymore. And then actually, if it's a shape that you really like, and it won't stick anymore, what you can do is you can take a piece of just regular Scotch tape, wrap it backwards around your finger, and stick it to itself so that you have a loop of tape. Stick it under your, stick it on your shirt, stick it on your arm, make it not super sticky, stick it on the back of here, and then stick that back down again. So, you can also do that just with a piece of paper. If you don't have this sticky stuff, you can just tape it on with a piece of tape, and just make the tape not too sticky. Just unstickify it. So then we're just going to paint around this mask, and we're going to go from the mask off. We don't want to get underneath that mask, especially once it starts to get not so sticky. And we'll just paint around it. And if you use a lighter color paint, then what will happen is your background will still show through, but it will be muted. If you use a darker color paint, you'll be able to completely cover that background up. If you want to get rid of it completely and you only want this little bit of the picture. So, and then also depending on how many coats you put on, if you put on a couple of coats of, especially this is acrylic paint, so this is, if I had watered it down, it would show the background even a little more. And I'm just doing this quick so you'll do a better job at it. But there we go. Now we've got our picture covered. Cover that a little bit right there. And push to the background. And when it dries, you'll see the background a little bit better. But now when we take off our mask, there we go. Now that part just stands right out, and when this dries, it will dry a little lighter like this, and you'll see the background, but it will really be pushed back, and this will really be your focal point. So that's one way of using a mask. And then the next way to use a mask is with, well, here, and I'll even show you another one that I did. This one I did with a circle. And I put my mask on, covered the whole thing so that you could not see any of the writing. But then I thought this was just too white. So then I used a lighter color. I used a gold, went over the whole thing so I can still see this and not all of the rest of it. But the gold pushed this back just a little bit, and then the darker color completely got rid of everything else. So those are ways that you can use your mask. And then here is one with a horse on it, and you can still see the other horses here, and you can see the guy on the buggy here, but I wanted this horse and this little dog to really stand out, so I went ahead and masked that and pushed everything back. And again, with this one I used brown, which is almost a darker, kind of a too dark of a color to push things back. You don't see them as well, but you do still see them back there. So that's another way to do it. Okay, so that's using a solid mask that you just cut out yourself and use it for masking a certain picture. Then you can mask when you stamp. So let's say you stamped this picture, and I already stamped it just because that was easier. You stamped this picture and you want to color it. But after you stamped it, you thought, I want the background to be colored also. But you don't want to color the background first and then stamp this, because whatever you colored the background with is going to show through all these little spots, and you wanted to color that. You wanted that on white paper. So you stamp it first, and then you can normally just with your second generation of stamp, you can just stamp it off, and I actually did that. I stamped it off on this piece of paper and then realized, doggone it, I meant to stamp it on my sticky paper. So I had to do it again. And then stamp it off onto your sticky stuff. And now you have a mask that will cover this up and allow you to do anything you want with the background, but leaving your stamp all white so that you can color that in with your colored pencils, with your markers. And again, you're just going to take the sticky stuff off the backing and stick it on your shirt a couple of times. You just don't want it to be too sticky. And then you're just going to line that up. And then what I do usually when I make when I make a stamp mask, I put this in my binder with my stamps so that the next time I want to do the same thing with this stamp, I've already got my mask made. And you can, again, use those over and over. And then you can we'll just throw a little bit of paint on here. But what I was really thinking of actually doing was using some marker and some water and making some of the watercolor paper in the background. And that would be really pretty behind this, and then color this. So you can do any kind of technique that you want to, but I just kind of wanted to show you how you can cover up your paper and then still color your stamp. Like if you had painted this whole page brown before you started, you would have a hard time coloring that stamp with colored pencils or anything like that. It wouldn't show up, and it would just really not look very good. So once we have that done, Then you can peel this off. And there. Now we have a background that's nice and crisp white. We can color that any way that we want to. And we've got the background, and we've got our stamp that really will stand out from that background without having the same color behind it. So that's another way, using a mask so that you can color in a stencil or color in a stamp, and the background will be nice and crisp white or whatever color your background paper is. And then my favorite way to use a mask is to layer backwards. And layering backwards, I've just started a little bit, is when you want something, like I have this mask. He has a couple little horns here because I actually took my other purple and made a mark there to see what my contrast was. And I thought, they're too close together, I won't use it. And then realized that I did that on the stamp that I wanted to use. So I just did it on the other side too. So now they're, at least both the sides are the same. So, but then what you can do is I want to have a feather that goes behind his head. I want a stamp behind his head. So what I'm going to do is, I took my second generation. After I stamped that, I stamped on my sticky paper. And now I am going to cover up that mask with the sticky paper so that when I put the leaves on there, kind of like little horns or little ears or whatever, that is not going to, and I'm just getting it de-stickified. I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to take my leaves, I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to ink up my leaf, and I'm going to stamp the leaf right on there. And again, once I cut a mask for any of these, I save those masks. So there we go. Now I've got my leaf, and I want that to come right here. Now my little horns are going to show you something else. It's going to show you what happens if you just stamp on top of something you've already stamped. See? That shows through. So I wouldn't want that to happen. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to use my second generation, because I want a mask of this leaf. And just remember to stamp on the front side of your sticky paper, the actual sticky side. If you stamp on the back side, it will show up, but when you cut it out, it will be backwards. Okay, and then you're going to want to cut around it to make your mask. The thing about cutting around a mask is you want to be very careful. If you go too far outside the lines of your stamp, then you will have a white line all the way around it. If you go inside your stamp, then whatever you stamp on top of it will stamp over top of whatever's not covered with your mask. So you want to make sure that when you cut your masks that you take your time and cut them carefully so that they fit very well. Okay, so now I have a mask to go on that leaf. And I want to, before I put that mask on anything, what do I do with my leaf? There it is. I want to put another one on the other side. I want to get that ink on my paper because I want to use my paper. Okay, so now I'm going to take this one. We still have our mask on top of here, and I'm going to take this one and put it right over here. See, now these little bits of the leaf that are coming down here onto my mask, those would be right on top of my mask if I had stamped with, those would be right on top of my picture if I had stamped without my mask. And it doesn't matter what your masks sometimes will wind up just totally looking, all messed up. And that's okay, they're just a mask. only using them to mask. So every time that you stamp something on top of them, you know, they're going to get messy. But I'm going to de-stickify this a little bit and put it right on here. And then you want to try and line them up really well. And then I have another one that I already had cut out. And I'm going to put this on the other side, and then we're going to put 1 or 2 more leaves behind these ones that are here already. And what this does is this is basically stamping backwards or moving backwards. You're going from your very front layer all the way to your back layer, because if you started with your back layer and then stamped on top of it and stamped on top of it, all of that is just going to show right through. So you're going to line that up as best as you can. And then we're going to take this little leaf and we're going to put it on there in a few places. Now you can go as many layers back as you want to. If you want to color the background of this paper, you can make masks for these leaves also. Oh, this one doesn't have a lift up on it. And I'm going to put this one, let's say right here. And then I'm going to put another one as a second generation right over here. Just like that. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. And then we'll have the reveal. And see how this is stamping over top of that? That's not doing us a whole lot of good. I mean, it doesn't look real pretty. Uh-oh. Oh, thank goodness it landed that way. Put that one right there. And put a second generation right over here. Now, if I wanted to add more, I would cut 4 masks and stick it on top of there. Then if I wanted to do a background, I could put 4 masks on top of there and then do the background. When you're all done, when you have it as far back as you want, see, and now look at it here. We have this sticking down onto our mask. We have this sticking up here. This is going over top of this leaf, and these are going over top of there. But now watch the reveal. See how those are going over top there? Now when we take our mask off, it looks like they're behind that leaf. You don't have that extra bit sticking on there. So let's do this one. And see, that looks like it is behind this leaf instead of over top of, and you can still see this leaf through those leaves. Now we've got here where we've got these and this on our mask, but when we take our mask off, that's funny, then we do not have the leaf there. These do not stick down onto our mask, and now that's what we have. It looks like our mask is in the front, then the blue leaves, then the orange leaves, and you can go as many layers back as you want to with that. And then, like I said, keep these because you may need them later. Like if I had to cut out 4 in order to do that, I sure wouldn't want to cut out 4 the next time I had to do it. So remember to keep these, put them back on their little pieces, and then stick them in your book so that you have them when you need them. So that is how you mask. That's how simple it is, but they really work great for a lot of different things. When you've done something and you think, I love this, and now I need to do the background, and I'm afraid that I'm going to mess it up, cut out a bunch of masks, stick them on there, and then do whatever you want with the background. And when you peel those masks off, this is going to be as crisp as it was when you started. You're not going to have any mistakes. You're not going to, if you're trying to color in there or paint in there and you mess it up with your mask, you're not going to do that. So those are the different types of things that you can do with your masks, and it's just a great way to play. I love just layering and layering. Like this mask here, I think that he would look great with even some more different shapes of leaves coming in a different color up there and just making a whole great big huge headdress, and it will just look like each of those layers are moving backwards. So, but those are the types of things that you can do. And I think that that's all I had to tell you on the masks. But like I said, if you want to, you can just use tape on the back of a piece of paper. Roll up a piece of tape, stick it on the back of the paper, and then stick that paper on top of whatever you're doing to cover it up. If I'm doing a straight line, a lot of times in my journals, I'll put a tuck or a pocket in my journal and think, I haven't done the page yet. Well, then I just cut a straight piece, put it on top of my pocket, tape it down with some non-stickified tape, and then do the whole rest of the page. And then when I'm done, I take that off and my pocket looks just as good as when I started. So that's it for masks. I am going to show you what we're going to get for next week. And for next week, we are going to pick up some of this carpet tape because I've seen everybody making their own double-sided tape, and it's really cool. Now we have carpet tape is double-sided tape. It's wider and it's stronger, so it's going to be just like we made our washi tape, except we're going to be able to add things to the top side of this, and then it will still be washi tape on the bottom side. So we're going to get a roll of this, and this was $5.47. So we are going to take that out of our budget. I am going to be back in just a minute because I need to adjust our budget for something I did a few weeks ago. So I will be right back. Okay, I'm back to explain the budget. Okay, so this week we are going to spend $5.50 on our carpet tape, and we had $34.50 in our bank after we made the masking after this week. And so we're going to need to take 50 cents out of our budget to pay for the extra 50 cents on our carpet tape. So that leaves us with $34 in our budget. Now, at the end of week 118, on Thursday of week 118, the week we did our matchboxes, that week we had $23.50 in our bank. And I'm explaining this just in case you are actually playing along, and really, keeping your extra money and saving it in your bank, and you really only have that $5 a week. At the end of week 118, we had $23.50 in our bank. On Thursday, I told you to take $4 out of the bank and go to the Dollar Tree and buy these mermaid shimmers. These are LA Colors mermaid shimmers. They came from the Dollar Tree for $1. And these work great for faux distress crayons. So you get 2 colors on each pencil, so 8 colors cost you $4. And there's a turquoise and a purple, and then there's a copper and a flesh tone. There is a dark blue and a dark purple, and kind of a maroony color, and a pink. So these cost $4. I went ahead and told you to do it then because I wanted to do this for journaling on a budget, but I wanted us to have it for our series also. And so that way I figured, I wasn't sure how long they would have these at the Dollar Tree, and I'm 4 weeks ahead. So I didn't want to wait 4 weeks and say, buy these, and they may all be gone. So at that point, back at the end of week 118, on the Journaling on a Budget video, I said, go ahead and pick these up. So if you did that, we're going to need to take $4 off of our budget. This is the first chance I've got because, like I said, because I'm ahead. So at the end of this week, we had $34 in our budget. And so by taking off that $4, we are now at $30 in our budget, but we didn't spend money we didn't have. We spent money that we already had in our bank. I just didn't get a chance to take it off till now. So I'm not necessarily going to use these I'm not going to do a video on these in our Build Your Stash series because I did a video in the Journaling on a Budget series, but I wanted to have these in our Build Your Stash in our Build Your stash so that we could use them when we wanted to, because they are really fun to play with. And I just thought that it might be a nice thing for us to have. But you can go back to the journaling on a budget video where we did the faux distress crayons and see the video if you haven't seen that already, and then pick these up at the Dollar Tree. So I hope that you did enjoy this video on masking, and I hope that that helped you out in learning different ways to use a mask and the difference between a stencil and a mask. So, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know, and I will try and make sure that I get those answered for you. But I do love masking. It's totally different than stenciling. It works for you in a totally different way, but it really does work for you in being able to have things stay the color you want them, in order to, you know, just have little bits that are a little bit different than the rest, but you have a really nice shape there, or moving back the background, or being able to layer and make it look like those things are really layered, coming from the back to the front. And remembering, when you layer, whatever's in the front is what you stamp first. The further back you go, you know, you stamp whatever's in the front, then you step whatever's behind that, and then whatever's behind that, and you just keep going that way, remembering you're going backwards instead of forwards. So I hope that this video helped. I hope that you enjoyed it. For next week, we'll need our carpet tape, we'll need some of our fabric, some colored papers and different things like that, maybe some of our tissue papers. So that's what we'll need for next week. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you like this video and you have fun playing with masks. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.